So, check this out, people. Today is almost 100 degrees in the Philippines. It's been very hot. It is summertime already. Even though back home it's still somewhat wintertime. We're in March, April actually, right now. And so summertime has begun here in the Philippines. So today I want to talk about something that's been going on back home in the US. And that's that a lot of men are finding love outside of the United States. I know that there are many people or many men who are coming to the Philippines from all over the world, Australia, Africa, the US, of course, Britain. The reason why men are coming to the Philippines is because the women here are very humble, they're very sweet. Now, of course, everywhere in the world you're going to find issues, you're going to have issues. People get divorced, people don't get along. There are some people who have attitudes, there are some women who have attitudes. These are things that you're going to experience no matter where you go in the world, right? And so you're going to experience the same thing here in the Philippines. There might be a woman that you meet and you may not get along with. You may love her, she may not love you. She may love you, you may not love her. It's part of life. But there's a difference between a woman in the US. I can only speak about American women. I can't speak about any other woman. The women are pretty much the same everywhere you go in the world. Filipino women are an exception. Filipino women are very humble, they're very sweet, they're very attentive to their man, their husbands, their children. Everywhere you go, you see families together. It doesn't matter if it's the park or the bar. You always see couples with their children, unlike in America, when couples go out, they always choose to leave their kids with the babysitter. And so that's one of the things you're going to find here in the Philippines is that women are very family oriented. It's very important to them. So is religion. And so the women back home in the US have lost their way. They don't treat their husbands well. They don't treat their boyfriends well. They don't believe in God anymore. Now, there are exceptions. There are women who treat their husbands well. There are women who believe in God. There are women who are good wives, good girlfriends. There's always an exception, right? But unfortunately, the majority of women back home in the US, because of the media, because of television, because of the nonsense that they've been taught and told that they can be independent and that they can do whatever they want, they've lost their way. And in turn, they've lost their men because most men in the US choose to be single. No one wants to marry because when a man marries a woman back home in the US and she chooses to leave him after he's worked hard to support her and her children, whether they're his or hers, the woman always ends up winning and the man always ends up losing. Women tend to be evil back home in the US. They tend to be vindictive. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen everywhere else in the world because I'm sure it does. But I can only speak about a majority. And unfortunately, in the US, that is the majority. Women no longer want to cook, they no longer want to clean. It seems as if though there are less and less women who can cook, who know how to cook. Here in the Philippines, the majority of women cook. They cook breakfast, they cook lunch, they cook dinner. They're always involved with their man. They enjoy his company. They want to be around him all the time. And so I'm starting to see that a lot of men in the US are leaving the country and trying to find love outside of the US because most men are looking for traditional women. They're looking for women who want to cook, They're looking for women who want to stay at home. They're looking for women who want to be a wife, women who want to be mothers, women who want to do things together as a family. For some reason, women in the US believe that men have no feelings, that men don't cry, that men are not looking for the same things they're looking for, which is to have a partner that's willing to be there for them. And so men are leaving the US and are coming to the Philippines because the women know how to act. Also, you will find that a lot of the times women in the Philippines do not care about age. They do not care if you're 30 years older than them or 40 years older than them. A Filipino woman will date a man who's 40 years older than she is. Now, a lot of the reasons why this happens is because a lot of the not I can't say a lot of the women here are poor. That's what I was going to say, but that's not true. There is a lot of poverty here in the Philippines. And so, but not everybody's poor. Just like in the US, you have middle class and you have poor and you have higher class. In the Philippines, there are only two classes, those who got it and those who don't. And those who don't have it sometimes opt for the easy way out, which is either, I mean, there is no easy way out in reality. They either work hard all their life for pennies because the minimum wage here in the Philippines is only $10 a day. And so $10 a day doesn't get you far. So if a young woman who's 18, 20 years old goes online and finds an older man who's 40 years older than she is, who's willing to support her and willing to take care of her, she has no problem marrying that man. She has no problem, no issue having children with him. She has no problem walking down the street hand in hand with him. She has no problem cooking, cleaning, and being a wife to that man because she knows that he will provide for her. And unfortunately, there was a time when things were that way back home in the US. A woman knew her place and a man knew his place. Now, you have to understand something that the reason why this woman who is choosing this older man to be with isn't just because he has the money and the means to take care of her and support her. It's not just that. It's because he is willing to do it. You see the difference? He's willing to do it. And because she knows he's willing to do it, she is willing to play her part. And her part is to be good to the man that's good to her. And unfortunately, back home in the US, women who know that a man is willing to do for her is not always willing to do for him. Women usually take advantage of these men because they're lonely, because they can't find a woman who is willing to accept him for his age, for his job, for the car he drives, for whatever the reason, right? And so rather than taking advantage of the situation, they take advantage of the person. And most Filipino women know this and understand this, that most foreigners who come to the US are looking for real, rather, most foreigners who come to the Philippines are looking for real women who are willing to accept them for who they are, regardless of the age, regardless of the job, regardless of anything. And Filipino women, rather than taking advantage of these men, they take advantage of the situation. And there's nothing wrong with that because both parties know exactly what they're doing. Both parties know exactly what they're doing. She knows why she's with him, and he knows why he's with her. And don't tell me it's about sex because most 60, 70-year-old men cannot perform like they used to when they were in their 30s. So it's not always about sex. Sometimes it's just about the companionship. And because these men know that these women are willing to be their companion, to help them in their older age, rather than putting them in a nursing home, They know that these women are willing to do what it takes to make sure this man stays alive for as long as possible because she knows that he is her way out. And he knows that she is his way out. So there's an understanding. So these women back home in the US who think that men come here simply to take advantage of women, that's nonsense because the women here know exactly what they're doing. And most of these young women who are 18 and over are more women than most women back home in the US who are 30 years and older. Because these young women know how to cook, know how to clean, know how to treat a man, know how to be a housewife. They know how to be mothers. They know how to be girlfriends. They know what it means to be a housewife. And the majority of women here in the Philippines do more than men because just like back home, men here are dogs. It's no different. Just like there are women who don't always treat their men good, there are men who don't treat their women good. And the women here, just like the men back home in the US who are looking for real women, the women here are looking for real men. So they too are looking outside of the Philippines to find a foreigner who can do for them the same things that they're willing to do for the foreigner. It's just the way it works. And so, to these men back home in the US who are alone, who are single, who are divorced, who are retired, who's able to travel, I suggest you think about the Philippines. I suggest you think about finding a real woman here in the Philippines, someone who's willing to stand by you. That's not to say that along the way you might run into some women who will try to scam you. That happens everywhere. So you do have to watch yourselves. You have to be careful before you decide to marry a woman, before you decide to support a woman, before you decide to give your all to any woman. You need to meet her first. You need to see what she's all about. And you need to do all of this in person, never online or in the internet. Of course, if you do meet someone over the internet, it may take some time before you visit. But before you do that, do not send money. Do not give her your personal information. Keep everything that's private, private. It works both ways. The same thing to the Filipino woman. Keep your privacy private. Set up a time, a date, a place where you can meet. To the American, fly here to the Philippines, meet her family if you're interested in her in a serious way. And most Filipino women, when they get with a man, it's not for a one night stand. So trust me, most of the time, you will find a woman that if you get with her, she's expecting you to be her man, her husband, her lover, and her number one. Because that's how Filipino women are. And so if you're a man back home in the US who's tired of this nonsense where women are independent. They don't want to cook. They don't want to clean. They don't want to do the laundry. They don't want to be at home when you come home from work because they're independent. They don't want to be a partner. They don't want to share. All they want is for you to give while they take. I suggest and I recommend that you consider the Philippines. The Philippines is loud, it's noisy. You're going to hear dogs barking every 10 minutes. You're going to hear roosters calling out. You're going to hear music. You're going to hear karaoke. You're going to hear people working. Life here begins at 5 a.m. It's something that you will get used to, but there's something that you may never ever get used to while living in the Philippines, and that's how a woman treats you. I've been here for a whole year living in the Philippines, and for as long as I've lived here, I still have I still have to get used to the fact that there are women here that treat me like a king. That when I wake up in the morning, even after a whole year, I have breakfast, I have lunch, I have dinner. I've always had clean underwear. My laundry is always washed every week. I never ever have dirty underwear, dirty shirts, dirty socks. My apartment is always clean, and my girlfriend lives across the street in her own home. And at the same time, she maintains mine and she maintains me. And so, in turn, I make sure that she has everything she needs and her children have everything they need. And so, if a woman is willing to do the same for you, men, be ready and be prepared to do the same for her. The Philippines is the place to be. The women here are amazing. They don't care what you look like most of the time. Most of the time, it's not about looks. There is an incentive for the women here to date an outsider, to date a foreigner. And the incentive is that you bring in the American dollar. That supports them, that helps them. And at the same time, in turn, it helps you because you both get what you want. You want a partner that's willing to be there for you, and she wants a partner that's willing to support her. So come to the Philippines, check it out for yourself. See for yourself that there's life after 40 here in the Philippines for foreigners, and they are willing to do for you, the women, the same thing that you're willing to do for them.